do some pantries never get bugs? Not because they're cleaner, not because they use expensive sealed containers, not because they spray chemicals every month. Some pantries stay insect-free for years because of something sitting inside them that most people walk past in the spice aisle without a second thought. It's a dried flower bud that costs under $1. It's been used to protect stored food for over 2,000 years across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. It contains a compound so toxic to insects that the U.S. military classified it as a strategic fumigant during World War II. And it repels every major pantry pest on the planet: grain beetles, weevils, flower moths, ants, and cockroaches, simultaneously. Not with poison, not with traps. With scent. A scent that humans find warm and pleasant, and that insects find completely unbearable. The personal anchor. I've made several videos on this channel about specific pantry pests: grain beetles, fruit flies, ants, cockroaches. Each one had a specific solution for a specific insect. But after building out my own pantry protection system over the past several months, I kept running into one problem. I had diatomaceous earth in my grain, bay leaves in my cabinets, cinnamon barriers on my counters, peppermint near the baseboards. It worked, but it was 4 different products in 4 different locations doing 4 different jobs. So I started looking for the one thing that covers the widest range of insects in a single application. Not a replacement for the specific methods. Those still work brilliantly for targeted problems. But a broad-spectrum base layer. One spice that makes your entire pantry hostile to every crawling and flying insect that wants to get near your food. That search led me to cloves. And then it led me to a wartime research program that most people have never heard of. The history. Cloves have been used as an insect repellent for at least 2,000 years. In ancient China, court officials were required to hold cloves in their mouths when addressing the emperor, originally for breath freshening, but historical records also note that clove sachets were placed in grain storage rooms in imperial warehouses as early as the Han Dynasty. Arab traders along the spice road packed cloves alongside stored grains and dried goods, not just for flavor, for protection. They discovered through centuries of practical experience that insects avoided containers where cloves were present. By the 1800s, Indonesian clove farmers on the Maluku Islands, the original Spice Islands, were using clove oil as a direct insecticide on crops and food storage. The active compound responsible was identified in 1834 by a French chemist as eugenol, named after Eugenia caryophyllata, the botanical name for the clove tree. Then came World War II, and eugenol entered the military record. In 1943, the USDA's Bureau of Entomology and Plant Quarantine was running a wartime research program to find alternatives to synthetic fumigants for protecting military food supplies. The standard chemical fumigants, carbon disulfide, chloropicrin, and ethylene oxide, were effective but highly toxic to soldiers and required specialized equipment that was scarce in forward supply depots. Researchers tested dozens of plant-derived compounds. Eugenol consistently ranked among the top performers. It showed broad-spectrum activity against stored product pests, including Cytophilus granarius, the granary weevil, Tribolium castaneum, the red flower beetle, Plodia interpunctella, the Indian meal moth, and multiple ant and cockroach species. A 1944 USDA research bulletin documented that eugenol vapors at concentrations achievable with whole dried cloves placed in grain storage containers caused significant mortality and complete repellency in target pest species. After the war, the synthetic pesticide industry exploded. DDT, malathion, and later synthetic pyrethroids replaced every plant-based alternative. Cloves went back to the spice cabinet. The military research was filed away, and a 2,000-year-old insect repellent was quietly replaced by products that cost 50 times more and needed to be reapplied every season. Engagement checkpoint number 1. Open your spice cabinet right now. If you have a jar of whole cloves in there, you're holding one of the most effective broad-spectrum insect repellents ever documented in entomological research. If you don't have cloves, they cost 89 cents to $1.50 at any grocery store. Here's what makes them different from every other method I've shown you on this channel. The science. Eugenol is the primary active compound in cloves, making up 72 to 90% of clove essential oil by weight. It belongs to a class of chemicals called phenylpropanoids, plant-derived compounds that evolved specifically as chemical defenses against insect herbivory. Eugenol attacks insects through 3 simultaneous mechanisms. No other single kitchen-available compound does all 3. Mechanism 1, neurotoxicity. Eugenol binds to octopamine receptors in the insect nervous system. Octopamine is the insect equivalent of adrenaline. It regulates movement, metabolism, and behavior. When eugenol floods these receptors, the insect's nervous system goes haywire. Movement becomes uncoordinated. Feeding stops. At sufficient concentrations, death follows. Mammals do not use octopamine, which is why eugenol is safe for humans and pets, but lethal to insects. Mechanism 2, fumigant repellency. Eugenol is volatile. It evaporates at room temperature and fills enclosed spaces with vapor. Insects detect eugenol vapor through chemoreceptors on their antennae and immediately exhibit avoidance behavior. A 2016 study in the Journal of Pest Science tested eugenol vapor against 5 major stored product pest species in sealed containers. All 5 species showed over 90% repellency within 24 hours at concentrations achievable with whole dried cloves. Mechanism 3, oviposition deterrence. Female insects avoid laying eggs in environments containing eugenol. A 2012 study published in the Journal of Stored Products Research confirmed that Indian meal moths exposed to eugenol vapors showed significantly reduced egg deposition on treated grain surfaces. This means cloves don't just repel adult insects, they prevent the next generation from ever starting. Kill, repel, prevent reproduction. 3 mechanisms from one $1 jar of spice. No other single kitchen ingredient hits all 3 simultaneously. Cinnamon kills on contact, but is a weaker fumigant. Bay leaves repel, but don't kill. Peppermint repels mice, but barely affects insects. Cloves do all 3 jobs at once across the broadest range of pantry pests, documented in peer-reviewed research. Engagement checkpoint number 2. If you've been following this channel and building out your pantry defenses, think of everything you've set up so far as targeted weapons, each one designed for a specific threat. Cloves are the perimeter fence, the broad deterrent that makes your entire pantry hostile territory before any specific insect ever reaches a specific defense. Here's exactly how to deploy them. The complete method. This works in 2 tiers. Tier 1 is free if you already have cloves. Tier 2 costs a few extra dollars for stronger long-term coverage. Tier 1, whole clove placement. Buy a jar of whole dried cloves from the spice aisle. Not ground cloves, whole. A standard jar costs 89 cents to $1.50 and contains roughly 50 to 70 individual clove buds. Why whole, not ground? Whole cloves release eugenol slowly over months. Ground cloves release it within days and then stop working. Whole cloves are a slow release system. Ground cloves are a one-time burst. Place 5 to 8 whole cloves in each of the following locations. Inside every dry goods container. Rice, flour, oats, pasta, dried beans, lentils, sugar. Drop the cloves directly into the container on top of the food. They are food safe and commonly used in cooking worldwide. They will not flavor your rice or flour at this quantity. In each corner of every pantry shelf, push them against the back wall where insects typically travel. Inside closed cabinets that store dry goods, baking supplies, and spices. Behind the stove and refrigerator, the 2 warmest, most insect-attracting zones in any kitchen. Inside, any long-term food storage containers, 5-gallon buckets, Mylar bag assemblies, mason jar pantries. Drop 3 to 5 cloves per container. Refresh every 4 to 6 months. When you can't smell the cloves by holding one close to your nose, the eugenol has mostly evaporated and it's time to replace. Old cloves can go into soup stock or tea. They're still food, just no longer strong enough to repel insects. Tier 2, clove oil sachets for maximum coverage. Buy a small bottle of 100% pure clove essential oil. A 15 ml bottle costs $3 to $5 and lasts 6 months to a year. Place 5 to 8 drops of clove oil onto a cotton ball or a small piece of cloth. Put the saturated cotton ball inside a small breathable sachet. A tea filter bag, a piece of cheesecloth tied with string, or even a clean sock works. Place 1 sachet on each pantry shelf, 1 inside each large storage container, and 1 behind each major appliance. Clove oil sachets are significantly stronger than whole cloves. The concentrated eugenol saturates a larger area and lasts longer per application. Refresh the oil on the cotton balls every 3 to 4 weeks. Add 3 to 5 fresh drops each time. Combined approach for maximum defense. Whole cloves inside food containers for direct contact protection. Clove oil sachets on shelves and behind appliances for area coverage. Together, you create a layered eugenol environment that no pantry pest can tolerate. Total cost for Tier 1, under $1.50 for a jar of whole cloves. Total cost for Tier 2, $3 to $5 for clove oil plus cotton balls. Total setup time, 15 minutes for an entire kitchen. Refresh cycle, whole cloves every 4 to 6 months. Oil sachets every 3 to 4 weeks. How this fits with everything else. If you've been building your pantry defense system from previous videos on this channel, here's where cloves fit in the stack. Diatomaceous earth in your grain kills any beetle or weevil that hatches inside your stored food. That's your last resort internal defense. Cinnamon barriers on your countertops kill and repel ants and fruit flies at the surface level. That's your active perimeter. Bay leaves in your cabinets deter cockroaches from nesting near your food. That's your cabinet level shield. Cloves saturate your entire pantry environment with eugenol vapor that repels every species across the board. That's your atmosphere. Think of it as layers. Atmosphere, perimeter, cabinet, container. 4 layers. 4 different compounds. each one doing a different job at a different level. Total cost for the entire system, under $10. Total replacement cost per year, under $15. Annual exterminator contract for the same kitchen, $600 to $200. Honest limits plus proof. I added cloves to my pantry system about 10 weeks ago, on top of the DE, cinnamon, and bay leaves already in place. The change I noticed: I used to see occasional tiny moths fluttering near the top shelf of my pantry, even with bay leaves in the cabinets. After adding whole cloves to each shelf and 2 oil sachets at the back of the pantry, the moths stopped completely within about a week. 10 weeks later, I have seen 0 moths, 0 beetles, 0 ants in the pantry. Not one. Now the honest limits. Limit 1. Cloves repel. They do not kill established colonies. If you have an active infestation with a breeding population inside your walls or inside a contaminated food container, cloves alone will not eliminate it. You need a kill mechanism. DE for beetles, borax bait for ants, boric acid for cockroaches. Cloves prevent bugs from wanting to enter. They don't chase out bugs that are already living there. Limit 2. Eugenol fades. Whole cloves are not permanent. They lose potency over 4 to 6 months. Oil sachets lose strength in 3 to 4 weeks. If you set this up and forget about it for a year, the protection will have worn off months ago. Consistency matters. Set a calendar reminder. Limit 3. Ground cloves don't work for this purpose. Ground cloves release all their eugenol within days and then become inert powder. You'll get a brief burst of repellency and then nothing. Always use whole cloves for placement. Save ground cloves for cooking. Limit 4. Clove oil can stain surfaces. Pure clove essential oil is dark brown and will stain light-colored wood, laminate, and fabric on contact. Always use sachets or cotton balls. Never drip oil directly onto shelf surfaces. Place sachets on a small dish or piece of foil to catch any seepage. The clothes. For 2,000 years, people who stored food in hot climates protected it with cloves. Chinese imperial warehouses, Arab spice traders, Indonesian clove farmers, WWJ military quartermasters, all of them knew what eugenol did to insects. All of them used it. Then the synthetic pesticide industry arrived, and a $1 jar of spice was replaced by a $12 bottle of spray that you need to reapply every month, and that leaves chemical residue on the surfaces where you store your family's food. 1 jar of whole cloves, 89 cents. 15 minutes to place them across your entire pantry. Broad spectrum repellency against every major pantry pest. No chemicals, no residue, no quarterly service contract. If you've been building out your pantry defenses from this channel, the DE, the cinnamon, the bay leaves, the steel wool, cloves are the final atmospheric layer that ties everything together. Your pantry is now a fortress. Next week, I'm showing you how to preserve eggs for up to 2 years without refrigeration using a $2 liquid that every Depression-era homemaker relied on. If you're building a serious food stockpile, protein storage is the gap most people never solve. That video solves it. If this completed your pantry defense system, send it to one person who's still spraying chemicals near their food every month. There's a better way. It's been sitting in the spice aisle this whole time. See you in the next one.